expected to bring freezing and near-freezing temperatures to the Houston area over the weekend. We'll discuss with ABC 13 Chief Meteorologist Travis Herzog. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also be joined by Eric Sandler, food and culture editor at CultureMap Houston. We'll explain why so many Houston restaurants are closing.
And I'm Ernie Manous. The Houston Museum of Natural Science astronomer Hannah Lange will be with us to tell us about the museum's Astro Year in Review and Preview event.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and click the purple box.
Hello Houston is made
Hello
possible
Houston
in part
is
by
made
founding
possible
sponsors,
in part by
John
founding
Bradshaw
sponsors
and Kathy
John
Sanders,
Bradshaw
and
by
Kathy
gifts
Sanders,
from listeners like
and by
you.
gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. In a speech at the World Economic Forum today, President Trump continued to insist that the U.S. purchase Greenland from Denmark. NPR's Daniel Kurtzleben reports.
Trump framed the U.S. as entitled to Greenland after helping defend Europe in World War II.
So we want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it. We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
Trump said he won't use force to take Greenland, though he pointedly also said the U.S. military would be unstoppable in trying. Trump rambled to many topics, at one point declaring the 2020 election rigged, as usual without evidence. However, he eventually covered affordability as originally planned, including policies to boost homeownership and cap credit card interest rates. Danielle Kurtzleben, NPR News.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine needs unity from the U.S. and Europe to push Russia into ending its nearly 4-year full-scale war. NPR's Joanna Kakissis reports from Kyiv.
Speaking to reporters through voice messages, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said only united pressure from the U.S. and Europe can force Russia to end its war on Ukraine. I really want America to listen to Europe, specifically through diplomacy, he said, speaking about Greenland, a self-governing part of Denmark. Zelensky said Ukraine supports Denmark's sovereignty and territorial integrity. He also confirmed that President Trump had invited Ukraine to join his so-called Board of Peace, but did not say Ukraine would sign up. He expressed concerns that the council would include Russia, as well as Russian ally Belarus. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
The Department of Justice has issued subpoenas to several public officials in Minnesota. It's investigating whether they are obstructing immigration enforcement. Residents of the state are on edge. NPR's Sergio Martinez Beltran reports from Minneapolis.
It feels like there are agents everywhere, and you can see them in residential neighborhoods, the bus stops, parking lots. And two things are notable here. One, some businesses are losing money big time. Medical care has also been affected. Dozens of Minnesota doctors in a news conference yesterday said patients afraid of being picked up by ICE are staying home. They say pregnant women are missing prenatal visits. They worry about ICE and patient privacy. And one doctor said a mom was afraid to seek care for her baby who was having trouble breathing for fear she'd be detained.
NPR's Sergio Martinez Beltran reporting. This is NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Congress has awarded $5 million to the Coastal Texas Project, known locally as the Ike Dike. The money marks the first congressional funding for the project since lawmakers authorized it in 2022. Coulter Baker is the executive director of the Gulf Coast Protection District, which oversees the state's coastal projects.
Just getting it authorized was a big deal. Getting it funded, even bigger deal, right?
The $35 billion project aims to protect the Texas coast and petrochemical industry from storm surge during hurricanes. The Orion spacecraft is at the launch pad for the Artemis II mission, NASA's much-anticipated return to the moon. News 88.7's Michael Adkison explains what needs to happen between now and a potential launch in February.
By the end of the month, NASA will hold a wet dress rehearsal for Artemis II. It's called so because crews will actually put fuel into the rocket, as though they were preparing for a launch. Crews will walk through the launch day process up to about 30 seconds until launch. Here's Artemis II launch director Charlie Blackwell Thompson.
We'll take some time after wet dress. We'll review the data, and then we'll set up for our launch attempt. Launch day will be pretty similar to wet dress. There'll be two big differences. One is that we're going to send the crew to the pad, and the other one is we're not going to stop at 29 seconds for a planned stop.
The mission's management team has determined several dates to potentially launch based on the Earth and Moon's respective positions. The earliest is February 6th, while other dates stretch through April. I'm Michael Atkinson, News 88.7.
CenterPoint says that it already completed a series of winterization preparations for a major winter storm this weekend. That includes testing electric substations in the area, waterproofing materials, and installing heaters and devices designed to prevent ice damage or buildup. We'll keep you updated with the latest forecasts here on News 88.7. Governor Abbott has issued a state of emergency with more severe impacts predicted for North Texas. Freezing rain and possibly sleet could fall Saturday in the Houston area. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello. Dreary Wednesday.
If there was ever a day made to stay in bed, it would be today. I know. It's beyond drizzleable. It's rainy outside.
It is. They have the shot of the skyline, and all we can see is the top of a few trees right beyond us, and then everything else is just like whited out.
Aliens have taken our city and moved it to Greenland.
But you know what? If you are staying in bed, you can still enjoy our show.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
and, Kevin watches on YouTube every day.
Hi, Kevin.
There is a YouTube channel that's easy. Don't go to YouTube TV. That's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But the YouTube channel is right there. So
yeah, my parents watch every day. Hi, Mom and Dad.
Hey, Mom and Dad.
Where are they watching from?
They watch in McAllen, Texas.
See, we're everywhere. And, on today's show, we're talking restaurants, space, and mariachi. How's that for a variety of things? We're all over the board today.
Hello, Houston, where Houston talks about everything.
About everything. And, we got to talk about that weather. Is it going to clear up at all?
It looks like what we're seeing right now is the tail end of this little system that's moving across. So it should quiet down. And then, of course, the big show is this weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna get rough out there.
It's gonna get really dangerous, I think, for a lot of people.
Well, Celeste, since Frank has led us there, take us into the very first story.
Yes. Going to jump right into the first story, which is an Arctic cold front is expected to push its way into Texas late this week, possibly bringing freezing or near freezing temperatures into the Houston area over the weekend. But the chances of snow are currently low. As of Tuesday, the National Weather Service Houston Galveston office forecasts a strong cold front arriving to the greater Houston area late Friday into Saturday. The front is expected to usher in the coldest temperatures of the season so far this year, and that was according to the NWS. A hard freeze with temperatures of 24 degrees or lower is possible for parts of the region on Saturday and Sunday nights. We know a lot of local events and things and sporting events for children are already being canceled. And residents are being urged to prepare for the cold, especially those with exposed pipes, pets, and sensitive plants. While the chance of snow remains low, forecasters say parts of the region could see a hard freeze Saturday and Sunday nights, with temperatures dipping to 24 degrees or colder in some areas.
Well, the real threat's going to be freezing rain. I'll take snow over freezing rain anytime because that freezes to power lines and makes them fall, or it freezes to limbs and makes those fall. So
yes,
I'll always take snow.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yes,
well, you know who we're going to take right now? We're actually going to take KTRK 13 meteorologist Travis Herzog is going to help us break this down and geek out with our weatherman, with our own meteorologist
we got lots of
here.
weather going on.
Frank.
Hi, Travis.
Frank, friends, it's good to be back. How are y'all?
We're good. We were just talking. The freezing rain could be a real nightmare. And I've been watching you on air, and the American model and the European model are still not quite in agreement on what we're going to get when. So what's your take?
Well, my take is just historically, when you look at which computer models handle Arctic air the best, the American model usually wins out over the European model. And so I am concerned that we're going the route of the American model, which would bring freezing rain well into Houston. For example, I was looking at the overnight runs of the European model. Suddenly it shows us in the 70s on Saturday. I really don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
That's not happening when Arctic air comes in.
Right. And in fact, the European model I was just looking at suggests that this icy event really isn't a player for us. But as you say, the American model, hold on, get ready for it.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it, Frank, that the concern is freezing rain. I'd even take sleet over freezing rain because sleet's not going to stick to power lines the way that freezing rain can. It just leads to that icy glaze over everything. Mm-hmm. And I think if we're going to get into trouble here, it's going to be starting Saturday night when the freeze line tries to dip into Houston. And the American model is showing a second wave of precipitation now coming through on Sunday. And that's when we've already got temperatures at or below freezing across most of southeast Texas. So I think right now, Saturday, we might be business as usual. It's a cold rain if we get anything, but it stays above freezing more than likely. But then Saturday night and Sunday, that's when I think we could start to see icy bridges, overpasses, power issues. That's settling in for the second half of the weekend.
You know, I made the point yesterday, people don't realize, Travis, that our whole highway system is bridges. Every time you cross over Chimney Rock, you're crossing a bridge, you know. It's all one bridge after another.
And even the surface streets, there's so many bayous and channels across the city that you're going across bridges more than likely on your way to work, school, or what have you.
Yeah, we're really a city of bridges, but we don't think of it that way. We think of it as a city of traffic.
Exactly. Travis, you don't want to be in a city like this when we've got ice on the road.
Exactly.
Yeah, as you and Frank have been talking about the two different models kind of disagree with each other, the American model, the European model, I'm curious, how soon do they merge? At what day will we be looking that we'll have a much clearer view of what's actually going to happen, or won't we know until it actually hits?
Well, this is a very shallow Arctic air mass, meaning it doesn't extend very high into the atmosphere. And that's why we're getting freezing rain. And honestly, the European model just doesn't handle those types of situations very well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see agreement until 24 hours in advance when it finally catches on to the cold air that's actually coming in.
Any idea on, let's say the American model, for argument's sake, is right. Any idea on what the thickness and amounts of freezing rain? Because I know it's a lot different from city to city. What do you think in the Houston area? A quarter inch? More than that?
I'm thinking we could get up to a quarter of an inch easily. If we're on the lower side, we're looking at a tenth of an inch or less, but it only takes a few hundredths of an inch to create that slick glaze on a bridge. So regardless, I think we're probably leaning towards getting into issues with the roadways. The concern will be if we get those quarter inch or greater totals, that weight of ice on the power lines and tree branches, that's when the things start coming down. And Frank, you remember vividly the January 97 freezing rain event that we had here in Southeast Texas. I hope we don't go that route. It doesn't look like it's going to, but that's always on top of our mind.
Yeah, that was a tough one. And I remember I was doing some teaching at the University of St. Thomas in addition to being on TV. And I had to cancel classes. That's for sure.
It's bad.
I know. So let me ask you, when do we get out of it? Whatever we get into, looks like Saturday night. When do we finally see a break?
Yeah, part of that, Frank, hinges on just how much frozen precip comes down. But right now, I'm thinking there's a legitimate chance that we stay below freezing all day on Sunday, especially if we get that second wave of precipitation. Then we go way down into the gutter on Monday morning when it comes to the temperature. We're talking upper teens, low 20s across southeast Texas. And it wouldn't be until Monday afternoon that we get ample sunshine and things start falling out. And then any moisture that's left over Monday night would refreeze again for Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, we should be completely done with the hard freezing part of this winter weather event.
We know, Travis, I was introduced to an interesting situation that I had not thought of. I'm hearing rumors they're going to close the causeway, quite possibly. So if people are going out on a cruise out of Galveston on Sunday, they need to get to Galveston Saturday. And I know I didn't ever think of that, but if they close that causeway and you have plans for Galveston on Sunday, you might be in real trouble. They may not have to close it, but if they're planning, that's the causeway is an interstate highway. That's part of I-45.
Right.
So
that makes me wonder then what would happen with the ferry. Would they close the ferry down as well if you tried to get down through Bolivar?
Well, you know what? I doubt they would close it, but getting to the ferry would be the issue.
Yeah.
Because without that causeway, you could go down 288 to Lake Jackson and come back, but that could be perilous because you have that bridge that goes right over the bay there, the one that you can almost touch the water when you're driving. So that Blue Water Highway bridge. So it's going to be precarious. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we could see freezing all the way to the coast?
I think we certainly can. I'm seeing a lot of guidance indicating that the freeze line is going to make it all the way down to the coastline. And then, of course, we've got the issue on Sunday night when we probably all are well below freezing. If you got some of that sea spray coming up with the wind kicking up, spraying water on the causeway, that can certainly lead to the same kind of icy situation. And it needs to be said, too, that if you had travel plans anywhere to the northern part of Texas this weekend, you need to reconsider. It'll be almost impossible to travel across much of the state because this is not just a Southeast Texas event. It is going to be far worse off to our north, closer to the I-20 corridor.
Have you heard anything about roads being sanded yet?
We heard reported yesterday that TxDOT is preparing to start the process of treating roadways, but I'm not exactly sure when that's going to begin.
Yeah.
So from all I'm hearing my mind goes to when should I start wrapping my pipes and how long are they going to be wrapped up?
Right. Well, I think you have until some point on Saturday to get it done. If you have to wait until then, absolutely. But I'd get it done before the cold air and the rain arrives. So I do it as soon as possible. Just get it out of the way. Tomorrow's actually going to be a pretty decent day. Less rain. We're around 70 degrees. I'd try to wrap everything tomorrow in preparation for what's ahead this weekend.
And after the weekend, after Monday, do I unwrap or do I keep them wrapped because something may come again?
I would probably leave them wrapped for another week or two. You're seeing a breakdown in the polar vortex, and that usually sends shots of Arctic air over a period of a few weeks. So I would just wait on that one.
I would remind people sprinkler systems probably should be drained.
Yep.
And don't forget your pool. Just keep it running if you can. You don't want your pool pipes to freeze, that's for sure. I, in the past, have often put the heater on the pool so that the warm water makes warm air, and then I get fans to blow that warm, moist air into the plants. I've saved my backyard 17 times now.
That's a great idea.
Well,
and we just recently got a sprinkler system last month, so we're definitely winterizing that bad boy.
Yes.
It's always the things you don't think of, it seems like.
Well, it's the 5 Ps, right? People, pets, plants, pipes, pool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for those that have livestock in our ranching and farming community, need to be looking out for those animals as well.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is if you don't want to be out in it, neither do the animals.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Pets especially.
KTRK 13 meteorologist Travis Herzog, thanks for the update and joining us on Hello Houston.
Yes, y'all stay warm.
Yeah,
Thank
good luck,
you.
Travis. We'll be watching.
And we will continue to monitor the winter storm that is expected to arrive in our area Friday evening. We'll keep you updated. We also have some other interviews planned to bring all the information to you.
Yeah, there's so much you have to think about and prepare for in these storms. And it's not so much in other regions of our country. It's that we live in a place where this usually isn't a problem. And we're built for this not to be a problem in most of our older buildings.
Well, like I say, it's the things you don't think of. For instance, if you have medicine that has to be refrigerated and you lose power, do you have a cooler full of ice that you can keep that going? Your prescriptions in general, let's say that they were going to run out Monday and you can't get to the pharmacy now because of icy roads.
That's a good point.
So make sure your prescriptions are full. Make sure you have plenty of diapers for the baby.
And
all of those
formula,
supplies.
if you need formula.
Dog food. A lot of people say, I'll get dog food on Monday, and they can't go get it. Just look at your cupboard and make sure you have plenty of water, just almost like a hurricane. Make sure you have water and supplies, things that you can eat if you can't, get out. And then just use common sense.
Yeah.
That's the one lacking thing in so many weather situations. People don't use common sense. So, but we'll keep you up to date.
When we lose power during cold and during ice storms and things like that, as opposed to when we lose power during hurricanes, Is there a quicker recovery time one over the other? Does it affect the system in a different way, or once it's down, it's down?
Well, the thing with hurricanes is they blow a lot of limbs down and a lot of wires down. With the ice, depending on how thick it is, if it gets over a quarter inch, then you have the possibility of limbs coming down and affecting the power lines. If you have less than that and it's just a road issue, then it's not as bad, clearly. And then, and then some hurricanes come through and they don't knock everything crazy. But generally, I would say you're in worse shape longer after a hurricane than an ice storm. But like Travis said, we haven't really had a significant ice storm since 1997. We've had a few glazy issues, but a big ice storm that really had trees and branches falling and ice on the wire lines and the lines, we haven't had that in 30
it's
years.
Interesting though, when you talk about an ice storm, how much of that is when it seems to have a very negative impact on the area is correlated with wind?
Well, certainly if a branch is already heavy with ice, and then a little wind gust comes along and knocks it down.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the number of oak trees that are actually dying on the inside.
Yes.
People don't realize that. I had one.
Yep.
And it took me 3 or 4. I did not want to cut. It was a 100-year-old water oak. I was like, I don't want to cut that down.
Yes.
I don't want to cut that down. And then Beryl almost cut it down for me.
Yeah.
And that's when I called and said, okay, we've got, just for liability's sake, we've got to get rid of this tree.
Yep.
And a lot of people, either they don't realize that it's dead or they want to hang on to it and see how long it'll last, or they're just not aware people.
Yeah, and I live in the Galleria area, and in our neighborhood, every winter season we have water oaks. They go down, the branches.
Yeah.
Even if there's not a ton of wind, we still see it, and they're always getting chopped down.
And it's always dangerous to go out and look because those branches fall and kill people.
That's a great point.
After Hurricane Ike, I think there were 75 deaths. There were injuries from branches from Arkansas to Ohio because people would come out and see if their property and everything's okay, and suddenly a branch or a tree is falling.
Which I think was last year when we had the snow that fell in our area.
On MLK Day.
On MLK Day. We went to live coverage, and I remember one of the things that we kept saying was, stay inside.
Right.
We're still not ready to be outside. Even though the sun is coming out and it looks deceiving, there's a deceiving time where people think it's safe to go out when it's not.
And the only upside to any of this is it's the weekend. And so people don't generally have to leave their homes.
Right.
Kids are not in school. People aren't working as much. So there are good parts of the timing, but it could still end up being very dangerous.
And I know you already mentioned it, but just to remind people, your pets, keep that in mind. Too many people have animals outside. They keep them outside.
Yeah.
They don't think about it. They think, well, they're used to being outdoors. No, this is hard on them too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And keep your kids
protect
inside.
Everything.
And your kids too. Usually they'll let you know
But I
if
also
they're cold.
know that a lot of parents have weekend sports, and my brother and his family are supposed to be in town this weekend for a soccer tournament up in the Woodlands. That's already been canceled. So hunker down.
The American Meteorological Society Conference starts Saturday at the George R. Brown, runs a week. I'm a speaker on Saturday afternoon.
Still happening?
They give me directions. I'm like,
all right.
I know where to go, Hall A. And then I'm the MC for the Crohn's and Colitis Ball, the gala on Saturday night at the Post Oak with women of distinction. So I'm sure they're like, Frank, are we going to have in this? So far, so good. As Travis said, if we could get through the better part of Saturday and not really worry too much until Sunday, but it's really going to be hour by hour.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to stay weather aware.
One of our YouTubers says something that's so obvious that I think a lot of people don't even think about. If your power goes out, put the cold stuff outside. If it's going to be dropping so cold outside, you've got a giant refrigerator.
Yeah, you have frozen wine.
Right. Well,
absolutely.
Is that what you need out there?
Check those generators. So many
keep
people
them in
bought
check.
expensive generators after the last couple of storms, especially after 2021 freeze. And they've used them a couple of times, but if they haven't been properly serviced every 6 months like you're supposed to do, then you go to turn it on or hope that it's going to come on, and it doesn't work. So test your generator. If it's not working, call whoever installed it and ask them how to service it.
There you go.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk about why so many Houston restaurants seem to be making headlines, but for closing. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media Newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
First, there was the Monroe Doctrine. Now, President Trump's foreign policy approach is being dubbed the Donroe Doctrine. But what is it?
This is less a kind of spheres of influence model than, just sort of old-fashioned primacy.
Why Trump believes the U.S. has a right to intervene across the Western Hemisphere. That's next time on Think.
You can hear Think coming up tonight. It's on at 10 p.m.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Good Reason Houston with the 2025 Houston Public Education Snapshot, tracking how Houston's schools are preparing students today for a living wage tomorrow. Learn more at goodreasonhouston.org. Support comes from Visit Galveston, presenting Galveston Restaurant Week, where participating restaurants across the island feature prefix lunch, brunch, and dinner options for a range of dining preferences. January 12th through 30th. More at visitgalveston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Houston's food scene has long been a source of local pride, a reflection of the city's diversity and creativity. But lately, that story has been complicated by a growing number of restaurant closures. The River Oaks location of Perry's Steakhouse, a familiar name in Houston's dining, is set to close after 7 years. The company says the decision stems from a contract dispute with its landlord. Still, the closure fits into a broader pattern. Across Houston in 2025, restaurants have been grappling with rising food and labor costs, higher rents, and changing consumer habits. For many, the financial pressure has become too much. To better understand what's happening and what he thinks is the future of dining in Houston, we are joined by Eric Sandler, food and culture editor at CultureMap. Eric, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So Perry's is the latest in a series of closures, citing landlord issues. What dynamic is at play here that we might not be seeing?
Well, I think what we're seeing to a certain extent is there's a lot of development, particularly inside the Loop, a lot of properties that didn't exist. I mean, if you think about, Perry's is in the River Oaks Shopping Center, which is this iconic destination for shopping and dining. But if you think about what's around them, when Perry's opened, Autry Park didn't exist, Regent Square didn't exist, Montrose Collective didn't exist. All of these are large-scale retail developments that have 2, 3, 4, 5 restaurants in them, and that affects the rental rates for the surrounding properties. So what seemed like a reasonable rent in 2018 or 2019, that number is going to go up considerably now with more density and more traffic in these neighborhoods.
But then who's taking those leases? Because I think back to, is it Mykonos Islands, whatever, on Richmond, that was moved out because their rent went up. And this was, 15 years ago. The place still, it still sits empty. So who's coming to take that? And does it benefit the landlord to be doing this?
Well, it's hard to say. I think, in a lot of instances, it's the evil boogeyman, the out-of-town restaurant group. If you think about, Montrose Collective as one example, you have the Steakhouse, which is from a Baltimore group. You've got some locals in there. Uchi is from Austin, but in Autry Park, for example, most of that's local. Two from Berg Hospitality, Anam, a Vietnamese concept from the same owner as MF Sushi. Maya Huel is part of the group that owns Liberty Kitchen and State Fair. So, I think it's a little bit of a complicated narrative. I mean, there are restaurant groups that can, justify these increased costs and kind of spread the, some of the hard costs among multiple concepts, right? That, if you're a little larger, you have a little better buying power. Maybe you get a little better deal on your ingredients and your wine and things like that. So, I mean, that's what's happening. The smaller guys are getting, it's hard to compete.
And that's what I was going to say, though. But would you say that, when you're looking at these major restaurant groups that are able to say, yeah, we can take on a really beautiful location. We don't mind paying the high rent. And it's kind of pushing out these smaller local chefs that are trying to live out their dream. How does that impact the local food scene in Houston? Because that's what we're kind of famous for.
No, and I think that forces some of these people to be a little more creative about the locations that they choose, and you have to kind of lean into being a destination. I mean, we just got the James Beard Award semifinalist announcements today. Places like Basso, Camaraderie, Agnes and Sherman, these are all independently owned, chef-driven concepts. They're in the Heights, which, 10 years ago wasn't really a dining destination and now is one of the hot spots. Or last year's winner, Thomas Billy, Belly of the Beast. That's way up there in Spring. And if you're an interlooper, it feels like you're driving to Dallas, but the people in Spring are really excited to have this award-winning restaurant in their neighborhood that they can patronize.
Yeah. How's the staff shortage going?
I think we kind of have come through that to a certain extent. Obviously the pandemic and the restaurant closures when they were closed for dine-in, that was a real shock for people. A lot of people left the industry. I feel like, a ton of my favorite bartenders became Amazon delivery drivers and H-E-B personal shoppers and all of that stuff. I have seen more and more people coming back to the industry. I think, part of that is that wages are up. So that line cook that used to make, $11 an hour is now making $17 or $18 an hour, which is its own challenge for the people who own the restaurants, but at least they're getting something that resembles more like a fair wage.
Well, it seems like the 15% tip is gone.
Oh no, the 15 you will be sneered at for a 15% tip. I say that with all, my late father was 15% of the subtotal every single time. Yeah. Nowadays if Dad were still around, I'd have to be floating a little cash on top of that just so that we stayed in everybody's good graces. Yeah, 20%, please.
Yeah. When we go back to the real estate issue and all of this and the rentals and all of that, I'm curious from a food journalist point of view, are you concerned when these higher rents become the norm, does it change the opportunity for creativity and birth within the industry?
Well, I think it changes what's available in individual neighborhoods, right? Like if you live near the Galleria or you live in River Oaks, you're going to get more homogenized, less individualistic restaurants. The one that hurt me last year was Ostia, which was in this prime location on Dunleavy, this really creative Italian restaurant. And they couldn't make it. And I was really sad about that. And that hurts, all of my friends in Montrose and River Oaks who don't have that available to them. So, they'll have to drive to the East End to go to Mimo, or they'll have to head to the Heights to try Hipsy, or they'll have to go to West U to try Milton's. They'll have to diversify. If they want certain kinds of cuisine or a certain style of experience, they're going to have to drive a little farther to get that.
So have you heard of this scenario where a landlord says, okay, your rent's going to go from $30,000 a month to $40,000 a month. And so the restaurant closes. And then you can't get anybody in there for $40,000 a month. And the landlord has to go back to somebody and say, I'll settle for $32,000. Yeah. I mean, is that happening?
Right. I can't say for certain whether that's happening. I haven't personally heard about that happening. But yes, it does seem like at some point there's a ceiling, right? But, these landlords are accountable to their lenders and their investors, and they have taxes to pay. And also, it's not that they're greedy. I think that narrative is overstated and very popular on social media, but everybody's accountable to somebody.
Yeah.
But, we saw restaurants from they had just opened to restaurants that had been around, like Rudy Lechner's closed down. We saw, you mentioned Ostia, BB Lemon. There was a couple of barbecue restaurants.
Polly's is the one that hurt me, 20-something years in Montrose.
Yeah.
But,
that's sad.
It is sad. It is sad. And I saw that the owner of Polly's, Paul Petronella, announced a new business that he's going to be doing with wellness coaching and some lifestyle stuff to help people live healthier. And so, I think there's a certain amount of push-pull, right? Like the landlord wanted a rent that Paul didn't think was reasonable. Mm-hmm. And he also had this other thing that he was interested in trying. And so, he walked away from a business that a lot of us really loved. I mean, I was a Paulie's regular and I miss it. I miss it dearly, but.
Yeah. I miss Good Dog.
I know, right? So I heard, and I believe it's probably true, that all of these weight loss drugs that are being used, people now go into restaurants and they split. Even if there's a split fee of $2 or $5, they're willing to pay that. It's the people that can afford these weight loss drugs are also the ones that can afford high-end restauranting. And so it's been a hit to high-end.
No, I think that's true. And I think, people are eating less. One of the other effects of those drugs is that it really cuts your craving for alcohol. So instead of having two glasses of wine or splitting a bottle of wine, you're having one glass or one cocktail. And we're starting to see some restaurants like offer smaller portions or kind of lean into that to try to capture some of those diners, because people do still want an experience, I think, right? Even if they're not eating as much, they want that experience of being cared for and not having to cook and do the dishes and all that. So I think, restaurants, we use that word a lot in 2020. We said pivot, right? Like it's a difficult business. It's always been a challenging business. And right now it's maybe a little bit harder than it was before.
And that's what I was going to say. Are we at COVID type closures?
I don't think so. And just, the pace of openings, right? Like, we talked about, Riel closed.
Yeah.
It became a sports bar, right? Somebody snapped that space up immediately. Down the street from it, Vibrant closed. Well, like two of the best operators in the city of Houston, Bobby Hugel and Justin Yu, the owners of Squabble and Better Luck Tomorrow and Anvil, snapped that space up, and they're opening a new restaurant there. So, I think there are still people who see opportunity in this business.
I have often had this philosophy, and I think it's pretty obvious, that if you want to succeed as a restaurateur in Houston, you have to give people a lot more food than the plate can hold. And free refills on tea.
Yeah, this is I call this the Pappas Restaurants effect, right? Big portions.
Yeah, yes. Well, it's true. If you go into a restaurant and you feel slighted on the portion, you're not going to go back.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's right.
That's just the way we are in Houston. We expect a lot.
I want the chips and salsa. I want the bread with a little olive oil.
Yeah, and don't charge me for it.
And don't charge me for the bread.
You should be glad I'm here.
Yeah, no, I was talking to somebody just a couple days ago, and they're like, "Man, the prices at Kenny and Ziggy's," and I go, "Yeah, but you get 2 meals out of it. Those
but still, those are for a sandwich.
They are very expensive, but they're still around,
and they're still great.
But it's crowded every time I go there.
I know, I can't get a table.
People see value there.
Okay,
so okay. Sorry, I was going to say, looking to the future, what concepts, what restaurants, what folks coming into the area are you most excited about?
Well, like I said, Bobby Hugel and Justin Yu are opening a new restaurant in Montrose. They haven't said anything about the name or the style of food or any of that stuff. But just given their track record, that's very exciting. We're all giddy about Italy coming. Yeah. This Italian grocery store.
When does that arrive, though?
They haven't said yet, so I'm going to say probably 27, not 26.
Yeah.
But that's certainly on the radar. And then, there's some smaller stuff like the person who I think makes the best pizza in Houston, Angelo Emiliani, is back from his California sojourn. He's working on a new restaurant in the Heights. I'll be there day one.
So, most overhyped restaurant in Houston that hasn't closed.
Well, I don't know. I have
spill the tea, Eric.
I have an informal list of restaurants that I don't understand how they're still open. But I think I would probably get myself into trouble if I started firing.
Yes, you would. What's your take on food trucks? Do you think they're hurting the brick and mortar?
No, I don't think so. I think it's such a different experience, and it's really oriented towards to go. But that's kind of what we talk about, right? Is that the high end stuff is doing pretty well. Like you walk into Drake's Hollywood on any given night, and it's packed.
It's Drake,
but is it hyped?
Well, it's not.
Is it hyped? Is it about the scene?
It's not affiliated with the singer Drake. It's just named Drake's Hollywood.
But is it to me, I want to know though, is it about being seen and the scene, or is it about the food is really off the charts? This is a culinary experience.
It's
off the charts.
No, it's about the scene. I mean, I love that place because of the scene. I think the food is I mean, I like the food, but it's not a place that you would go just for the food. You go for the whole experience.
Well, like B19 is still going and blowing. I mean, they're strong as they can be.
Yeah, and arguably like better in the kitchen than it's ever been with Chef Michael there working alongside Charles Clark.
So most underhyped restaurant in Houston.
Ooh,
that needs to get some love.
Yeah, give them their love.
I say this, like the Chronicle just said it was one of the best new restaurants in Houston, but like I would like it to be really hard to get a table at Camaraderie in the Heights, because I just think what Chef Sean Gall is doing is so special, and I'd like to see it as busy as possible. And then the other one is one of this year's James Beard Award nominees, Adrian Torres at Maximo in West U. That's just super creative Mexican food and really delicious.
What are you seeing nationally, trend-wise? Where are we going as a country when it comes to our culinary scene?
I think coming out of the pandemic, it's still about like crafting an experience for people, making it special, giving people a reason to leave their homes and not order from some app, for lukewarm food in a box, right? Like you got to give people, you got to make it memorable for people.
Yeah.
Best meal you had this week?
Oh goodness. I went to, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but I went to Oru, a new sushi restaurant in the Heights from the guys who own Neo and Kira, and I really loved everything that they do.
Okay, then worst meal you've had this week?
Oh, Celeste.
Oh goodness.
She's loaded today.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, come on.
I don't. I am spoiled in the sense that I am the least anonymous diner in Houston. I don't have very many bad meals.
Let me ask them a different question, playing off what you said. What do you think are trends and things that ruin meals for people? What are they doing out there that maybe they should re-examine doing?
Oh, give me an example of what you're thinking.
I would say the wait staff.
Yeah,
a bad waiter or waitress can ruin your meal.
I actually think it's music.
Music can ruin a meal.
I've been at a couple of restaurants where I thought to myself, I'm digging the food, I like the vibe, the music is completely off.
That's funny. I tend to notice good music, like by which I mean I recognize the songs and they're songs that I like.
Yeah.
More quickly than I recognize bad music. I will say I did have a meal. I was at a restaurant in Upper Kirby, and they had a piano player going, and it was terrible. And we spent the whole dinner talking about how awful that piano player was.
Yeah. See, I'm also thinking of things like, I don't like truffle oil. And then there was a period where everyone had to use truffle oil. And
yeah, I think a lot of that stuff has gone away. I mean, it's, at the core, at the end of the day, it really is about, buy good ingredients, cook and season them well, and let them speak for themselves. And that's a safe manner to always be successful.
Okay, you have an out-of-town guest comes to Houston. Only time for one meal. Where are you going to take them?
Ooh, that's a good question.
It depends. Like, to a certain extent, I think people come to town and they want Tex-Mex and barbecue. And so I will take you to Candente, or I will take you to Truth Barbecue, or I will take you to somewhere like that. The new Pinkertons that just opened up on Greenbrier looks incredible. I haven't had a chance to go there yet, but it looks fantastic. Yeah.
Well,
and then, but like if you're like a real like a food obsessive, like I don't know, I love Basso in the Heights. I just think they're live fire, super creative, always delicious.
Nice.
Well, anytime you need a friend to go eat with.
Yes.
We're here. Your Hello Houston team.
Don't ask Celeste to cook for you.
No. Hey.
I mean, I don't cook for myself, so, it's all
okay,
fine.
last thing
Ernie
for me
eats
then.
Pop-Tarts.
I do love a good Pop-Tart. We're tired of the scene. We've eaten out at so many restaurants. We get a night to go out, something we may not think of that's maybe some little corner place that you think people should kind of hunt them out.
I don't know that this is quite the answer to your question, but I took my mother, who's lived in Houston for as long as I've been alive. I took her to Fung's Kitchen recently for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been to Fung's.
Yeah.
And she was so charmed by it. And then there's North China, way out on I-10, kind of near Highway 6, that's been doing like really good like Chinese and a little bit of Korean food for getting on 50 years now. And I love little places like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Eric Sandler is a food and culture editor at CultureMap. Eric, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, did you know you can join an astronomer from the Houston Museum of Natural Science for a guided tour of the night sky to check out highlights and seasonal celebrations? Well, you can, and we're going to tell you how. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
I did not know that.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Conversations about where art comes from? Well, Bullseye has you covered, as long as you don't mind a little bit of ridiculousness.
Y'all was like really judging me though.
They sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7. On Fresh Air, you'll hear conversations with entertaining people like Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson.
I gave him one take, one sound, one voice, and that was it. Blah, 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 blah. And Matt, his eyebrows went up, his tongue came out of his mouth. He's like, oh my God, that's him, that's Bart, that's him. You got the part.
The most interesting people in show business tell their stories on Fresh Air. Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from ROCO, presenting Quartet for All Time, featuring chamber works by Messiaen and more. Saturday, January 24th at Texas Southern University. Tickets at roco.org. Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
So then I thought, well,
all right.
Sometimes we get caught chatting away.
Well, that's because we like each other.
We do.
You know what happens this evening? The
What?
Houston Museum of Natural Science will host their Astro Year in Review and Preview event, which, as the name suggests, it'll reflect on the most exciting space stories of 2025, from major events to important discoveries that were made. We'll also get a glimpse of what we can expect in the year to come. So to tell us more about this, please welcome Hannah Lange, an HMNS astronomer and program manager for the George Observatory. Hannah, welcome to Hello Houston. I love your hair. It looks like you got a little too close to the Aurora Borealis.
Exactly. The nebula or the galaxy. Exactly.
I love it.
You can see her hair on our YouTube channel.
sure
Just go to YouTube where we're broadcasting live.
And you can call or text us with questions for Hannah at 713-440-8870. So tell us about the event that's coming up tonight.
So tonight we have a lecture on what events have occurred in 2025. Unfortunately, it is completely sold out.
So you'll have to give us a key here. What are some of the big events of 2025?
So, for example, we had various solar events. We had
Explain that. Can you explain that?
Eclipses.
We hear about these coronal mass ejections.
Oh, yes.
And it's big electromagnetic storms. I've always ignored them because they never seem to come to fruition. Mm-hmm. Am I being an idiot to ignore them?
They do occur.
No, they do occur, but they don't knock out the radio.
Well, not necessarily, because we're learning how to change and adapt our technology and turn satellites and so on. However, it does affect things like causing the Aurora Borealis and Australis, and that even comes all the way down to Texas sometimes. So recently we had Aurora, and people a little bit further north or out of the city lights, the light pollution, were able to see it in kind of a reddish the longer wavelength of light that gets down here, because of course you have more wavelengths up to the North Pole and so on.
You know, Hannah, why do you think it's important for people in our area to know about astronomy and understand what happened in 2025?
What is so important is just going out of our Earth and looking back at it and how fragile and the thin blue line is, and to realize we're all one species. We were just speaking about this before I came on, and how it would just set everybody together again, bring us together. And That's incredible. And then just the other thing is going out and looking at these astronomy events, it kind of puts your whole world into balance. You have all these big problems. The world is full of problems. You look out at the stars, they're still there. They're live for millions, billions of years. And you just kind of get that peace and go, okay, all my big problems, all the world's problems are small. We'll have more eventually. They'll go away and we'll get some more. But it just gives you that peace and that kind of grand picture.
That's so true. I've always thought that about beaches and mountains.
Yes.
You feel small, and so your problems feel small.
Exactly.
So observing some of these things, because I used to promote meteor showers like all the time on my shows, right? But Houston's not the best for watching a meteor shower, but the George Observatory can be pretty spectacular.
Yes.
Now tell me about going to the George and what goes on there.
Okay, so for example, the Geminids meteor shower in December, but coming up we have the Perseids meteor shower, which is every August, and it's going to be on August 27th, and we are going to be open with music and meteors, so we'll have live music playing, and just come and hang out with us, bring a blanket, chair, lay back, watch the meteors all night.
Am I going to
see? Am I
going to see them though?
Yes, you actually do. We are south, about 60 miles southwest of Houston. So we have a little bit of light pollution creeping up from the north because of the people moving, kind of out of the city and developments going in. But we still have an excellent sky there, and you can still see a lot of meteors. And especially this year, we're not going to have the moon interfering, so we'll see more. So
you got to think these things through.
Exactly.
If I'm not mistaken, then last year we had a major asteroid collision outside of our solar system.
Yes.
So I'm curious, from looking at that, what we can learn about the destruction of the universe we know, the creation of new planets. What did we learn from seeing this, and why was this so significant?
So again, we want to be aware of what objects are heading our way because we don't want another dinosaur event. That was my master's thesis way back at Rice University was, about 20 years ago, there was only a handful of professional astronomers that were even watching for these. A lot of amateur astronomers were actually discovering them, almost 500 discovered at the George Observatory. And unfortunately, sometimes they come in from the sun. So, but now, since then, thankfully, I don't know, maybe somebody listened to my thesis, but there's a lot more professionals and telescopes aimed at that. NASA's constantly, of course, and with all our satellite launches and rocket launches.
So, we learn about planetary formation and destruction from watching these things happen? And what do we glean from it?
Oh, all kinds of information about, seeing in action rather than just trying to look at it after the fact or doing spectroscopy. We can see it in action and see what occurs.
And so how do you research that? I mean, are you glued to a telescope? Talk to us about what that looks like, because you're studying something that's out of this planet.
Out of this world.
Out of this world.
Out of this world, right?
Yeah.
So back in the day when we had the asteroid team and they did this research, because now the larger telescopes and consortiums are taking over and they have so much better advanced technology, but it would be, for example, looking from 10 p.m. to about 4 a.m., but it's a lot of photography, a lot of digital photography, and just comparing it to all the other known objects out there. What's moving? Is this a new object? Is it a planet? Is it a satellite? And then you have to, screen it all out and do your photo stacking to see what the movement and the orbit is. If you do think you discovered something new, turn it into the IAU, the International Astronomical Union, and then they confirm it. And then you have to follow up with it a couple of weeks, couple of months later to get the orbit and confirm, and then they can, again, extrapolate from there and see, and it's exciting when we find something.
Here's something exciting. A total solar eclipse happens on August, about the 12th?
27th.
Is it that? It's in August.
27th.
But you can't really see it from here.
Actually, you might be able to. Okay, so you're thinking probably of the one that's in May or early March.
No, the one's in August. I'm taking
the
a
one
cruise.
in August is actually better to see here.
Because I'm going to Spain to see it.
Okay, but you can actually see it here. It'll only be 94% covered. It won't be total, so you're probably going to see the total. But
Hopefully.
Here it will be 94%, and we're looking at possibly having a viewing at the George as well. But definitely the main museum, if you go to the parking lot, they're going to be watching that. So,
Okay, Hannah, so you said tonight tonight's event is totally sold out.
Yes.
So you're going to tell us one of your favorite parts or aspects of tonight's event for our listeners. Tell us about it.
Just the overview from 3 awesome astronomers, Carolyn Sumner, James Wooten, and Adam Barnes, and they are just so excellent at explaining the events and, again, all the, just summing it up and telling you the excitement and the research connected. But we do have more programming coming up, so this isn't the only one. In March, we have exploring what it would be like to live and work in space, so Becoming Martian. That lecture's open, and that's going to extrapolate to us going to space and living there, and what are the possibilities and how are we going to make that occur. And that's kind of the next step, right? Not just looking at what's occurred, but how can we continue?
Well,
that's exciting.
You talk about that, and just recently what was in the news was the astronaut who took ill on the space station, having to get them back to Earth.
Exactly.
Does that open up new conversations about what living in space truly would be like and what we really are prepared for or not prepared for?
Completely, because we have to, again, be prepared for all scenarios. So definitely.
Did it surprise you that they had the complications they had?
Not really, because again, this is life, and what is it? Life is always changing, and there's always complications. You have to change and thrive is what I say.
Yes. And we did get a question from one of our YouTube watchers. They said, is AI playing a role in astronomy these days? And if so, how? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So definitely. So we have a new young employee who is fantastic, Corinne Marasco, and she has just graduated from University of Florida with an astronomy degree, and she's done graduate work, and she is all about the AI. And to be honest, I'm a little more white-haired and not as much into it, and a little skeptical. But
I wouldn't say white-haired.
Little white roots maybe. But she definitely has been sharing with me about AI and how we can use it to, again, discover new things, and just extrapolating all that information and putting it together. It's actually really fascinating and very exciting, very dynamic.
Do you think AI will drastically change what we are able to find and see?
Along with advanced technology, you still need people, of course, to analyze data, because there's always going to be glitches, and you do have to check that. But however, it does seem like it's going to help kind of maybe speed it up a little bit and help us maybe even give the direction we need.
Do you have a favorite when you look at the Aurora Borealis and meteor showers and eclipses and lunar eclipses and planet conjunctions and all those things? Do you have one that really turns you on that just
the Perseids meteor shower? So I grew up in Canada. We had a cottage in the Laurentian Mountains north of Montreal, and my parents would take us to see that. We'd be out all night watching that. So that is near and dear to my heart. And it's fascinating, the little magic of just seeing even one meteor. You don't even have to watch them all, just that magic. People just stop and in awe, and you make that wish, and it's great.
Hannah Lange is an astronomer at the Houston Museum of Natural Science and program manager for the George Observatory. Hannah, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
You're so welcome.
The Astro
Love
Year.
the hair.
Yes.
Thank you.
The Astro Year in Review and Preview event will take place this evening at 6:30 p.m. And coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top stories. We'll also be joined by 2 members of the local all-female mariachi band, Las Chabelitas. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
At Marketplace, we help you understand what's going on in the economy and why. There is no topic too large or too small, whether it's the housing market, jobs, interest rates, even the prices we are paying at the grocery store. Our independent journalism is critical in helping you connect the dots and getting the context that you need. So, join me, Kai Ryssdal, every weekday on Marketplace.
Marketplace, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. on News 88.7.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8 at 7, nature visits San Diego, America's wildest city. Followed at 8 by Nova, Asteroids, Spark of Life. Then at 9, it's Secrets of the Dead. Tonight on TV8.
Showers likely today, the high 69. Chance of showers tonight, a low 60. Right now it's 65, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, Governor Abbott has directed the Texas Division of Emergency Management to activate the state's emergency response resources ahead of the severe winter weather expected in Texas this week. We'll discuss this and more of today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with Dr. Beth Gilmore, Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice at the University of Houston downtown, who will discuss the use of force by law enforcement.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. Plus, we'll also chat with two members of the Houston area all-female mariachi band, Las Chabelitas.
And we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and click that purple button.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. President Trump spoke today to the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland. He renewed his demand that the U.S. acquire Greenland, but by negotiation, not force. NPR's Mara Liasson has more.
It was a super threatening speech with a little nugget embedded in it, which was the pullback, at least for now, of the threat of using force. And I think that he did that to calm the stock markets, who were very agitated about this. He did say, I am seeking immediate negotiations to discuss the immediate acquiring of Greenland by the U.S. So does that mean he wants to negotiate something and he won't use force, or he's just backing off for now because it got such a bad reaction?
NPR's Mara Liasson. During the speech, President Trump also called on the U.S. Congress to ban large investors from buying single-family homes. NPR's Stephen Bisaha reports Trump signed a limited executive order on corporation home buying yesterday.
In Davos, Trump blamed rising home prices on corporations buying up houses and crowding new home buyers out of the market.
But homes are built for people, not for corporations, and America will not become a nation of renters. We're not going to do that.
Trump's executive order tells federal agencies that in 60 days, they must stop providing things like insurance and approvals that support corporations buying these homes. Trump wants Congress to pass a permanent ban on those sales. He also wants Congress to pass a one-year cap on credit card interest rates. The current average is around 22%. Trump wants it capped at 10%. Stephen Bisaha, NPR News.
The Supreme Court heard arguments this morning on whether President Trump has the authority to fire a member of the Federal Reserve Board, set up to be independent to protect it from political pressure. Trump wants to fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Palestinian health officials say 3 journalists were killed today in a targeted Israeli strike in the Gaza Strip. They're among at least 11 people killed today in various attacks. NPR's Anis Baba reports.
The 3 journalists were working with a drone camera, filming an Egyptian aid project when an Israeli military drone bombed their car. One of the journalists was a freelance photographer with the agency France Press, who had been married only last week. A video verified by NPR shows the shredded metal shell of their vehicle after the attack, which struck 3 miles away from where the Israeli troops are positioned inside Gaza. Israel's military said troops had identified suspect operating a, quote, drone affiliated with Hamas, in a manner that posed a threat to their safety. The military's statement provided no evidence and no further detail. It said the strike was conducted with the required chain of command, but added the incident was under review. Anas Baba, NPR News, Gaza City.
This is NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. With steady rain already falling across the region, Houston Mayor John Whitmire is urging people to stay off the roads Saturday through Tuesday, as a severe Arctic storm is expected to bring freezing temperatures and the potential for icy roads to the area. The city's preparations for the Arctic weather began taking shape last weekend and are ongoing. A federal appeals court heard arguments Tuesday in a legal challenge to Texas and Louisiana's laws mandating the display of the Ten Commandments in all public school classrooms. News 88.7 government reporter Andrew Schneider says the judges seemed skeptical of the arguments by the state's attorneys that the laws are constitutional.
Texas Solicitor General William Peterson said Texas Senate Bill 10 follows the First Amendment, in line with the Supreme Court decision defining protected religious speech, Kennedy v. Bremerton School District. Peterson asked the full Fifth Circuit to overturn another Supreme Court decision that explicitly prohibits the display of the Ten Commandments in public school classrooms. The judges raised concerns that SB 10 and its Louisiana counterpart amount to religious coercion, in part because the laws mandate posting an explicitly Protestant translation of the Ten Commandments from the King James Bible. Jonathan Youngwood, speaking for the plaintiffs, said students are compelled to attend school and such a mandatory display is coercive and unconstitutional. But several judges signaled that the Kennedy decision might protect Ten Commandments displays. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
Local political experts say Republican leaders are sitting in a good financial position heading into this year's statewide elections. That's based on the latest campaign finance reports released, showing that Governor Greg Abbott has over $105 million cash on hand. Mark Jones is with Rice University.
His most likely rival on the Democratic side, Gina Hinojosa, has $700,000, about 100 times less. And then the same for Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. He has $38 million cash on hand. His most likely rival, State Representative Vicki Goodwin, is at about $200,000.
The last time Texas had a Democratic governor was Ann Richards between 1991 and 1995. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
If you missed the first hour of the show, you missed some things that were out of this world. Boy, I got no response at all.
That was fun.
Thank you, Frank.
By the way, the solar eclipse is Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. That's the one I'm flying all the way to Spain to see.
That she said you could see right here in Houston.
Well, she says that. She says that. I'm not so sure. But.
All I know, every time I hear that, I think, thank God, Bonnie Tyler will get another gig to sing somewhere.
She is. She's going to be there.
Singing at your event?
Yes.
Yeah, she sings Total Eclipse of the Heart every time there's an eclipse.
When was the last one where we all went on the roof here?
That was a while back. I've got pictures of us up there with our little
together
glasses.
with our glasses and.
I remember
Ernie
that
just
one.
kept singing the Bonnie Tyler song.
That's all you have to do during eclipses. Total
all
eclipses.
Day, the entire day.
Yes.
Ernie will sing the Bonnie Tyler song.
I get kind of stuck in a loop, and the same thing just keeps happening over and over again in a song.
Yes.
My mom, when she went into the hospital, she was singing Que Sera Sera, because my friend Jeff had been singing that with her the night before. They were watching a video and singing it. She could remember. She didn't stop for like 8 hours sitting in the emergency, and everyone was good. She was like, Que sera, sera. So it runs in the family. There you go.
Really?
Frank, how's that weather looking out there?
Well, the heavier rain has shifted to the east side now. So Liberty, Chambers, Galveston, Brazoria County. So that little system's going to continue to move out of here. You can see on our camera.
We can finally see the buildings.
Yes, the aliens returned it from Greenland. They've taken the city, and now they brought it back. So at least the fog and clouds have lifted a little bit. That's going to be leading us into the weekend, warm.
But a moment ago you said, tomorrow might be lighting up a bit. Things are going to be nicer for a day or so before it falls back into
for a couple of days.
Yeah,
and then this cold front, this Arctic, which people forget the C, the first C, Arctic.
Arctic.
They say Arctic. It's not Arctic. It's Arctic.
Arctic.
And so the Arctic front is on the way in. It'll come in Friday, and the cold air will start to move through. That makes it more dangerous because once you get the cold air in place first, then anything that falls on top of it is going to freeze. So that's where we get freezing rain, because it's freezing on the bridges and overpasses and cars, and then the rain falls and freezes to that. We were talking to Travis Herzog from Channel 13 earlier, and it looks like the timing for this winter precipitation would be late Saturday night, and maybe another bit on Sunday.
Yeah.
So
But then he also made you worry about Monday morning.
yeah, I mean, we're just going to have to be really weather aware, because it's an organic fluid motion.
And we will continue to monitor the weather. We will bring up any updates that we have.
Yeah, keep listening to the station, too. They will have them throughout the day. Coming up still on our show, talking about ICE, we're going to talk about the other ICE. We're going to talk about the things you need to know about what's happening with immigration enforcement, and a really thoughtful conversation. I hope you'll stay for that. And then we've got a mariachi band coming in.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Las Chabelitas are going to be joining us. But, yesterday we were talking about President Donald Trump, who celebrated his first year back in office with a list of accomplishments, and he also gave us a shout out.
But what they did to me, nobody ever went through what I went through. And here I am in a place called the White House. It's a beautiful place. Who would have thought, right? Signed legislation to cut all taxpayer funding to woke and biased NPR and PBS. And they're sort of gone now, I guess. I heard they closed up. They were terrible. They were so unfair. They were so terrible.
It's not clear what the president actually heard, because both NPR and PBS continue to operate even in the absence of the federal funding he cut last year. We are still here.
Is that why he was bringing boxes to our offices? He thought we had packed us up.
We will not be going anywhere, and we want to thank you for supporting us. If you have been supporting NPR and PBS, we will continue to bring the important information that we bring every single day. So we want to thank you for supporting our station.
To help explain possibly what the president was saying, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which gives funding to help stations broadcast and exist, that was closed down by the federal government. But each station, be it NPR or PBS stations across the country, are independently owned and operated. It affects smaller stations and smaller markets because they get a bigger percentage of their operating budget from Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So there's still need out there for the support and help. You'll also probably notice it maybe in some production budgets that producers get money from CPB to make content. But as far as organizations, as we are one of them, are blessed to have a community, as Celeste was just saying, that supports the work we do here and continues to fund and help us. And since we are not in campaign, we're not going to ask you for a donation right now. But no, you can always donate at HoustonPublicMedia.org to keep our station strong and to keep these voices heard, a place for conversation and discussion.
Yes.
So, Celeste,
thanks for the shout out.
Yes, and we're going to jump into the headlines. Governor Greg Abbott has directed the Texas Division of Emergency Management to activate state emergency response resources as severe winter weather is expected to impact Texas beginning Thursday, according to an announcement made Tuesday. The activation comes as meteorologists are tracking, including our very own Frank Billingsley, an Arctic cold front that will bring dangerously cold temperatures and wind chills to the state through early next week. A storm system moving through Texas is expected to bring freezing rain, sleet, ice, and snow that could create hazardous travel conditions into the weekend and cause impacts to infrastructure. Based on current forecasts, the state of Texas is acting to ensure Texans have the resources they need before severe winter weather impacts communities across the state, Abbott said in the news release. How are you preparing for the cold weather? What helped you get through last year's snow? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston, 713-440-8870.
I made a comment in the last hour when we were talking about this that, if your power goes out, take your food out, put it outside. It's cold outside, and just keep in mind, too, things that are in the freezer, frozen foods, tend to be kept at about 0 degrees. So putting them outside, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, they could get mushy on them. I'm talking about like your milk and your refrigerated items. If the temperature's low enough, you can put them outside if you lose power. There you go. There's my Louise.
I will say this. I've seen a lot of rain forecasts that bust. We say it's going to rain. We think it's going to rain. 90% chance rain. It doesn't rain.
Right.
I rarely see these kind of winter precipitation events bust. It's not a matter of where of it happening, but exactly where is the freeze line going to be? Where does it turn to snow? amounts, that kind of part of it, that's harder to predict. But the fact that the models are on this and have been and continue to be, it's not, I doubt it's just not going to happen.
Right.
That would be wish casting. But it's going to happen, so be prepared.
Again, 713-440-8870. You are listening to Hello Houston. We'd like to hear how you prepare for something when you have a weather event. Do you go out and get gas, or do you go get some water? Do you cover your pipes? Which definitely cover your pipes this time.
Well, the number's 24. If the weather's going to be 24 degrees or colder for 2 hours or more, that's a hard freeze. That's there have been studies that suggest you got to get down to 20 before a pipe will actually bust. But, I wouldn't take the chance. 20, because we're talking Fahrenheit. That's a big difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius. I would say, 24, 25, a pipe can certainly bust on you.
Yeah. Talking about being prepared for things, we've got another story here. Texas voters shouldn't wait until last minute to mail vote registration information forms or mail in ballots to the U.S. Postal Service. They warn under new USPS guidelines, mail dropped in mailboxes may not be postmarked the same day it's collected, because postmarks are applied once mail reaches a processing facility, which could be days later. Why that matters to Texas: voters' registration applications must be postmarked by February 2nd to be valid for the March 3rd primary. And mail-in ballots must be postmarked by Election Day and received by 5 p.m. the next day to count. With the timing of postmarks now less predictable, election officials urge Texans to mail early and take ballots and forms to the post office and request a manual postmark. So
that's a messy story right there.
It's a really rough one. But what are your thoughts on these new guidelines? Will this help or hurt your vote by mail? Have you ever voted by mail? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
I have voted by mail. When we lived in Australia, I voted. I sent in my ballot.
Yeah.
And it arrived and I believe
counted.
it was counted.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. I mean, I think that the tricky part here is that the belief always was if it was postmarked by Election Day, when it got in and it got counted. But now this idea that it has to be there by the next day. So even if it's postmarked by Election Day, if there is travel that still has to happen to that piece of mail, it may not be counted. So keep that in mind. Do it early, especially when we talk about the weather too. Think about delays there, and that there may not always be delays right here in our own backyard, but in other places. So always keep that in mind. Get yourself registered and always go online, check and make sure you are registered.
So is it open now? Can you go ahead and vote now with a mail-in ballot?
You can apply for your mail-in ballot now, and then you fill it out, and then they'll send it to you when it's time.
So when is it starting? Do you know?
I don't know when they're sending them out.
No, I mean what's the earliest I can send in a mail-in ballot?
As soon as you have a mail-in ballot, as soon as you receive a mail-in ballot, not the application to get one, but as soon as you get it, you can fill it out and send it right back.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to wait to send it in. But you won't get it till closer to election. And that's the other thing. If they delay the mailing out of ballots, and then there's the postmark, and then there's the receiving date, this all could be played with. So do it early, get it done. That's all I have to say on that story. And I do have one more thing to say about it. We got a special election early voting going on right now for Texas 18th. So get out there and vote. It's happening.
And this is a really interesting time for voting because there are so many different timelines, elections happening in a very short period, and it can be very confusing.
Oh, yeah.
So if you are curious about what and which election is happening and when and what the deadline is, go to harrisvotes.org.
Great resource.
And a reminder, we heard from Craig Cohen, who said they're going to be talking tomorrow morning on Houston Matters all about the weekend freeze. And they'll have good information there, too. So that's from 9 to 10. And then we'll probably be talking about it again from 11 to 2.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Frank, you got a story for us.
Yeah, your favorite story.
I know. I'm excited about this one.
Do you want more Ilya and Shane after binging Heated Rivalry on HBO Max? Did you binge Heated Rivalry?
Yeah, I binged.
I haven't seen one episode.
You need to watch it. Frank was watching it as it came out and was telling me about it. And I'm like, I'll wait till I can watch it all at once. He was so right. And so then I just devoured it.
I mean, I may watch it again.
I
Like
might
a lot
too.
of people. According to Axios, Rachel Reed's queer hockey romance series, Game Changers, is in high demand after the TV version premiered in November. The heated rivalry novel is the second in the series that published in 2019, and it follows two professional male hockey players as they fall in love from rookie season to now, right?
10 year span.
It starts at rookie season,
Yeah.
whatever that means. I love it. You know, the Houston Public Library has 15 copies of the ebook, and there are over 400 people on the wait list. That's amazing.
Love this. It's sparking not media literacy.
Just
People,
plain
go
old
plain
literacy.
old literacy.
Get
Go
out there
read a
and
book.
read.
Now,
Yes.
the good news is the Houston Public Library has unlimited copies of the audiobooks of the first two books in the series. So this was a series of novels of basically gay romance novels. And I think that's what the appeal of Heated Rivalry is. Now, two very good-looking male stars and a lot of other good-looking hockey players. Certainly, it's visually appealing. But it's a nice story about two guys from about 2011 to 2021. Is that the 10-year span? It's
Yeah,
right about
something
there.
like that,
So
yeah.
gay marriage wasn't legal. One's from Russia, one's from Canada, so it's not even American guys. But it's the pressures that were being felt in national sports and still are.
Right.
But two people who can't help themselves falling in love. That's a true love story. When you don't have any choice but to be in love. You just
Frank's
it's
our
just
resident
there.
romantic. Are you noticing this?
Celeste is with me
I
all
am
the
with
way.
it all the way.
And then there's Ernie
100%.
sitting over here in
There's
this
our-
corner.
Our resident
So,
pessimist.
Love hath no reason, that reason knows.
Love hath no boundaries.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's the
Love hath
beauty
no
of the
boundaries.
series Heated Rivalry. Is
Yeah.
that it's they fight against it. They don't want to be gay. They don't want to be publicly gay. They think it's maybe a phase. What is this happening to me? Why do I have to be in love with this other man? And it's because you were born to love another man and you met the one you should be in love with.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
I will tell you about the books. I'll tell you that. So, as Frank's been saying, there were 6 books in the series to date. There's a 7th coming out that will continue with Ilya and Shane and their story. But the first book was what turned out to be the 3rd episode in the series about 2 other hockey players. That was the very first book, Game Change. And the second book was Heated Rivalry, which makes up for the rest of the series. The 6th book in the series returns to Ilya and Shane, and now the 7th book is in even further adventures. Heated Rivalries, the TV show, has been picked up for a 2nd season, which people are believing will tell the story that's in the 6th book, and then probably another season after it's been such a huge hit would then be this new book that's coming out. Though some speculate it could be other hockey players from within the series.
That's all about the books. I just know it's a really hot
And
show.
it seems to be really, striking a chord, and people are in line waiting for that book.
And I've heard that one of the biggest audiences is straight women. That straight women love to watch this gay romance. Can you shed any light on that for me?
I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen the show or read the books. But I think women just love a good love story.
There you go.
And also,
it is that. It is
the
a great
books
love story.
themselves
Romantic.
in their community out there and people who read this, because it started off as fan fiction. It was written online. The author got contributions from people that read it, notes on what to do, and she refined it over a period of time. These books had a big following before they were turned into a TV series, but not anywhere compared to what they got now. But so there was a lot of pressure on them, and some are saying it's the best book to screen adaptation that's been made of a book because it's so true to the books
Well, I was going to
themselves.
say, we were talking about that in our pre-show meeting, that there have been books that have, that have been very romantic. 50 Shades of Grey, remember when that took over? Everybody wanted to read those. And there have been a couple of others, but it seems like this is the
one for now.
This is the one for now. But we have been receiving quite a few comments. We did get a comment regarding the cold off air from a caller that said wanted to recommend The Freeze Miser. That was Kate from River Oaks. We also got a text that says, I get a space heater and a Generac. Since last time the freeze happened, I've gotten a Generac put in and I just go get water.
Make sure that Generac is serviced because
Make
you
sure
may
it's
need
serviced.
it and it doesn't work.
That's right. Make sure all of your appliances and everything that you're going to be relying on are charged and ready to go. And then a text. Give me more of Ilya and Shane. Love that show from Macy. And again, it's just really striking a chord.
Yeah, I'm curious if we have any viewers that have read the books. Because there's 400 and something people in line at the library to get one of these books. And interestingly enough,
yes,
I have not read the books.
I haven't seen the show or read the books.
I have downloaded the audiobooks for the first 6 books, and I'm just starting, but I already don't like the audiobook.
Because you lack focus.
Well, I think one of the really great gay romances to come out was Call Me By Your Name with Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, but that didn't make as much
No.
a splash.
It was very highbrow.
Right.
Very
This is
highbrow.
very, what's the word? I'm not tabloidy.
Raw?
But I don't want to use the word raw.
It's kind of blockbustery.
Yeah, it's more like
Hollywoody.
TV showy kind of WB kind of show, and it's very accessible.
Yeah.
And also, my favorite comment on it was the mom who wrote, "My son is interested in hockey. Should I be concerned?"
And I'll tell you, what's interesting is you don't see that much hockey in it. I mean, there's the kind of the illusion that they are the 2 best hockey players in the league, and you see the background of it. But as far as them actually playing hockey, you don't see a lot of that.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with Dr. Beth Gilmore, Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice at the University of Houston downtown, about the use of force by law enforcement. This is News 88.7.
Hi, I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
The U.S. has long been one of the world's leaders in scientific research, but the COVID pandemic brought that research front and center, and many Americans lost trust, opening the door to vaccine skepticism and research funding cuts. So what will it take to restore trust in science? We're taking your calls on a special episode in partnership with Science Friday next time on The Middle.
Tomorrow night at 8 p.m.
This week on This American Life, 10 months after the fall of the brutal dictatorship in Syria, a group of Syrian comedians decides to go on a national tour. But it is really not clear what they can say with their newfound freedom, or it's still going to get them in serious trouble.
I don't think something bad will happen to us. Nobody cares about us. I'm not George Clooney. It's a few people telling some jokes. Let them.
Turns out some people don't want to let them. That's this week.
Coming up tonight at 9 p.m.
The title of Gabriel Tallent's new novel, Crux, refers to the most challenging section of rock climbing. Tallent, a climber himself, embraces the fear that comes with the joy in the sport.
I love that climbing can have this inch-by-inch terror.
I'm Elsa Chang. How that terror is less scary than teenage life on All Things Considered from NPR News.
All Things Considered. It starts today at 3 o'clock.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to Hello Houston. As we continue to explore the recent ICE involvement in Minneapolis and nationwide, we became curious. What authority do police, ICE, and other law enforcement officers have to use deadly force? What protocols, guidelines do they use to make the decisions that they make? And what rights do we individuals have when they are stopped by or pursued by law enforcement? To help us understand all these issues, we're joined by Dr. Beth Gilmore, Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice at the University of Houston downtown. Dr. Gilmore, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
I guess a lot of people are concerned with not just how to behave in these situations. There become the questions of what's legal and not legal, and whether or not that's even being upheld in these situations, which then builds on the stress of what to do if you find yourself confronted or asked or questioned or involved in any of these incidents we've been seeing. Huge topic to digest, but I guess where would you start in helping people understand what's happening?
Okay, so I think that that there's a lot going on when we see an incident like this, particularly one that gets national attention. You know, it's upsetting. It's upsetting for people to see, right? I mean, someone loses their life, law enforcement's engaging in deadly force, and you know, oftentimes the first time that anyone interacts with law enforcement is when they're in the situation where they're actually interacting with them, right? There's not many practice classes, right, that we get taught in school or in education. And so actually, as part of my outreach at University of Houston downtown, I've actually taught high school students what to do when pulled over by law enforcement. I think it's one of those things that we don't think about until we're in that situation. And so, you know, talking about basic things such as, now this is not applicable to the specific example involving this ICE agent, but, you know, for example, when you get pulled over, some individuals think automatically that they need to get their ID ready, get their insurance ready, right? And so before the officer approaches their vehicle, they're scrambling to try to get materials. And to law enforcement, that can look like they're scrambling to get a weapon, potentially, right? And so having those kinds of conversations, but when I talk to average teenagers, oftentimes they'll tell me, well, my parents told me it's disrespectful not to have my stuff ready for the police. I need to have my stuff ready, right? And so having these conversations, I think, are really important. And I think in this situation, what we see is kind of a snapshot of a few seconds of interaction where you have two people who are both in really elevated states of, you know, having a sympathetic nervous response, right? Adrenaline's pumping, right? You know, you have an officer who is, you know, standing, you know, kind of in front of to the side of a vehicle. You have a driver who looks like they're trying to get away, right? And, you know, that situation is a high stress situation. So you're talking about a few seconds of interactions in a very brief situation.
But take me outside of what happened in that particular incident. And I'm more curious, even to start with, what is the difference between what a police officer can do and what an ICE officer can do? Where are we? I think we are most trained, like you said, to how to behave if a police officer approaches your car and what you should do and how you should react. Do ICE agents come with all the same authority? Do they have more authority? Do they have less? Do they need the same warrants? Do they need the same? Help us understand the difference even at that basic level.
Okay, so there's quite a few. So when you're talking about federal agencies, a lot of times there's idiosyncratic factors related to what they're doing. On a broad level, you know, they operate very similar to law enforcement. So they get a lot of the same training, you know, in terms of the different things that they do. It's just oftentimes what they're enforcing versus not, right? So they're not engaging in, you know, typical traffic, you know, stops and things like that.
And that's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was thinking in my line of thought is that, you know, Dr. Gilmore, if a police officer pulls you over, you see their car, it's usually, you understand, you're in the street, the lights go on. There's this natural rhythm and protocol. What we're seeing within ICE is that there isn't necessarily that same feeling of a natural protocol. So if somebody is pulling you over, what should citizens understand is this new place of protocols when we look at ICE specifically?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that, you know, and this has been a concern for, I don't want to be stereotypical, but for female drivers for a long time,
yes.
Right? You know, you get pulled over by an unmarked vehicle or an undercover officer, right? And you're like, is this a cop or is this someone who's going to put me in their trunk, right?
Exactly.
You know, I don't know what to do,
Yes.
right? And so I think that's a really valid concern. And so I think, and it's easy to say, right? But it's a lot harder to practice. But I think one of the things that's really key in these situations is trying your best to remain calm, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing that happens is when, and I'll be the first one to admit, I've spent my career working in various law enforcement agencies. I knew officers, and when I would see the lights go on behind me, I'd get nervous.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's a really
Same.
natural response to get nervous.
Well, you think you're in trouble.
Right.
Right. So that's my question. Who can tell me to get out of the car and I have to get out of the car?
Yeah.
Can an ICE agent tell me to get out of the car and I have to get out of the car? Or is that reserved for cops and state troopers and constables?
It depends on the situation.
Well, see, now that doesn't help.
Right.
I mean, that became a deadly situation with Renee Good. It was a situation where it looked like she was trying to maybe prevent people from going back into the neighborhood. I don't know what she was doing, but her car was askew on the icy road, and they were telling her to get out of the car. Did she have to get out of the car and didn't do it?
In that situation, I mean, again, I think there's going to be more information that comes out, right? But at a baseline, like what I'm looking at, because there was an investigation going on, right? They do have the authority, law enforcement does have the authority to temporarily tell you to get out of a vehicle.
Even ICE?
Mm-hmm,
what about National Guard?
I don't even know if National Guard's engaging in traffic stops. I mean, they can give a directive as a law enforcement official and have an expectation that civilians follow it, and so, or citizens, right, that follow that.
It just seems like if you're in a uniform with a gun, I have to do what you say.
So here's the thing, is that I think that a lot of times that these situations kind of, I would like to see like the whole of what happened that day, right? So I don't think that there's a proclivity for law enforcement just to walk up and be like, hey, you, out of the car, right? That kind of a thing, right?
Right.
So, was there something that, and I don't know, I'm speculating, okay? Was there something that was going on that made them think that maybe there's something concerning going on in this vehicle? Maybe there's something impeding an investigation, and so did they ask questions earlier and she refused to answer or refused to give information? And so, here's the other thing too, right? Law enforcement's also responsible for all the other people in that's a residential area, right? So if someone's doing something and it's, concerning or suspicious or impeding the investigation, they also have to make sure like other people are safe too, right? So coming up and engaging with someone, and again, I don't know because I haven't seen all the footage, right? We only get snippets, and that stinks, right? When we're trying to be objective. But if there was something going on that was concerning, and then they said, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Because most of the time, right, when we get stopped, right, by law enforcement, it's, they come up, they say who they are, they say do you know why I pulled you over today? Right, it's kind of the standard speech, right? And so, but in those types of situations, I'd like to see the whole.
So,
right.
But if we take it away from that particular situation, because we're all seeing lots of different videos of different things, which on the surface look very aggressive and not following what we would assume are protocols that should be in place. That could very well be from only seeing parts of videos and also not understanding what those protocols are. But there's also concern, are they being, the agents that we're seeing do this, are they properly trained? What authority do they have? What kind of warrants are they carrying with them? Do they have to produce that? What do you have to produce? I've seen videos that say, do not answer any of their questions. Do not say anything. If they come to your home and knock on your door, don't even respond from inside the house, because once you respond from inside the house, then they have authority to come in. I don't understand any of this.
I read they are not law enforcement. ICE agents are not law enforcement.
Help us understand those finite, and I know there's a whole lot we're throwing out at once, but pick and choose. Help me understand if I find myself in a situation like this. If there is a pounding at my door and they say, ICE, open up, what am I legally responsible to do? And I understand there's a difference between what the law says and what may be happening in practice out on the streets today. But legally, help me understand that.
Okay, so that's a really good question, and we've seen this locally in Houston, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we've also seen this even in law enforcement with Houston, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, multiple years ago, there was a big controversy with the Houston Police Department and the use of no-knock warrants.
Yes.
Right, and then we had policy change related to that because what they found was like people were getting hurt. They were in places they shouldn't be, right? Even though they were authorized with the warrants, right? That there was false information backing those warrants, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would even go so far to say that there's even situations where a warrant is issued, whether it's to a law enforcement agency or to federal agencies or officers that are carrying out tasks where there's concern, right? Mm-hmm. Over, but that's retroactively. Right. And so as a citizen, right, as someone who's engaging with law enforcement, and whether it be local municipal police, state officials like Texas Rangers, in Texas we have Rangers, right, or it be, federal officials, My advice is always to be very calm. I know that it's much easier to say because I get nervous. Okay, so I'm here to tell you, I get nervous. Okay, so but to stay as calm as possible in terms of their directives. You are advised to follow directives, but in terms of questions where they're asking for permission for certain things. So, for example, this is common practice on traffic stops to say, is it okay if I search your car? Is it okay if I look through your car? Right? We've seen a ton of cases throughout Houston. I don't know if you know this, but years ago, Harris County led in exonerations in the country, which was shocking, right? Because of a lot of drug-related exonerations where they tested materials that they thought were drugs from people's cars that they admitted they thought were drugs, but they weren't drugs. But it was mostly related to these consent to searches, right? I personally would not consent to a search. If it's a consensual question, I certainly wouldn't do that. Now, should you get a knock on your door? Mm-hmm. Right? It's a different situation, your residence. You are certainly allowed to ask, for what information they have. Like, is there warrants? Is there someone specific they're looking for? And also to understand, the parameters of that warrant. So in some cases, they're looking for a person. Mm-hmm. Right? So they're looking for a specific individual that may be in that residence. In those situations, they're not permitted to, for example, dig through your drawers in your house, right? Mm-hmm. They can't, go through those. So it's perfectly okay to ask.
And I think that is a question that I personally have. So, for example, if I'm at home with my children, and also I think women have different set of standards of feeling protective of themselves and of their family. If somebody comes and knocks at my door and it's these two, big men, they're masked, I don't have anything to hide. If they come and they knock at my door and they say, it's ICE, we want to come inside, it becomes a power struggle if I say, well, no, can I see some type of identification? Mm-hmm. Do they have to legally show me any type of identification before they come into my house? Or do they say, no, we're ICE, we want to come into your house?
Okay, so there's a couple of different scenarios here to think about. So there are circumstances in which when law enforcement perceives an imminent danger, right? Okay. So kind of a textbook case that I may be dating myself here, but I'm gonna use it. Okay, I'm gonna go with it because they just did a reboot on Netflix. Okay, so we're gonna go with it. Okay, everyone here will know what I'm talking about. But the O.J. Simpson case, yes. Right? So when you think about the homicide scene being located by law enforcement and them recognizing that one of the victims was the separated spouse of O.J. Simpson, right? Officers made way to his residence and then observed some things outside that they thought were a little concerning and made entry, right, into the grounds of O.J.'s residence at the time because they thought, well, my gosh, she's dead, he could be hurt too, right? And that's the legal parameters of something like that. Right. So in a situation like that where they think that someone inside can be hurt, or there's there's reasonable information to believe
to
that
come inside,
right?
They can force them away inside,
right? If they think and again, I think that a lot of time, and this is I think it's whenever you see these citizen interactions with law enforcement in any capacity, and someone gets hurt. It's tragic. Yes. It's just sad. No, yes. We don't want to see that, right? We don't want to see that. And I think it's really easy to look back and say, oh, well, maybe we should have done this. But I mean, you don't know. You don't know people's story. You don't know what happened. You don't know if they've been scared, any of those things, right? So I think, when you're looking at that situation, there can be a lot. And when you're talking about being a female, I think, it's perfectly reasonable to say, I need to see some identification. Is there someone I can call? I'm scared,
I'm a little concerned.
I've had officers knock on my house in the middle of the night at times, right? In my personal residence because, they hear something or they're looking.
What did you do?
I know. We'll talk about that off air.
Well, I want to talk about this really quick, that we're talking to Dr. Beth Gilmore, Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice at University of Houston Downtown. If you have questions about what we're talking about, give us a call, 713-440-8870. You were just saying, Celeste, in the questioning there, and it's, does ICE have investigatory powers or just retention powers? Are they there to investigate a crime, or are they there to apprehend an individual? And the difference of their mission then I think would imply what they can do if they enter your home.
Right. So here's the thing, is that sometimes in the course of apprehension, they get information that is investigatory in nature, right?
Okay.
So because people will give them information, right? They'll tell them things, or and it's in both capacities, right? People will tell them things that's exonerative of nature, right? So, oh no, that person hasn't been here in a long time. Now they live here, right? Or they, or whatever it may be, right? And so I think through the course of action, right, that they can be involved in those capacities. It's kind of like when you think about state troopers, right, in the state of Texas, right? I think the average motorist would think about troopers as if troopers are people that pull people over for speeding, right? I mean, and you see the hat come out and you're like, oh, I'm getting a ticket. Right. You just know I'm getting a ticket. Right. But sometimes when they're involved, like there's a big, there's a really interesting data recently about troopers getting involved in like trafficking initiatives because they do so many traffic contacts that they'll see, at-risk teenagers being trafficked. And so now they've shifted because, yes, they're involved in the traffic and that's their primary responsibility, but because they're now stopping this vehicle and they find a 13-year-old kid that's run away 3 times, now they're investigatory and they have the ability to do that. So I think you're thinking about like primary contact and primary goal versus the sometimes secondary consequence. Now, ICE does work closely with law enforcement, right? So they're often working in tandem with the local municipal or county, depending on the location that they're in, right?
Celeste had mentioned too, if they're at her door, can I see the warrant? I need to see a warrant. There are 2 different kinds. There's administrative and judicial warrants. They carry one, police carry the other, or they mean different things. Can you really quickly sum up the difference between the 2?
Well, I think it's kind of nuanced. So it's difficult to, but when you're talking about, and you have the right to see both. I think like if we're talking about how we're going to work with listeners to help them understand this, is that they're allowed to see both. Now, in terms of what the variances are, again, because there's just so much right now, I don't want to get into the nuances of it.
But do they have to show the warrant? Or can they just say they have one?
That has been done before. So again, I would say that the law enforcement should, if they want to get cooperation, right, they should be forthcoming with what they have, okay? Now, has that always been the practice? Absolutely not, right? And so we know that. We know that that has not always been the practice. And I will also tell you this, the standard of privacy is constantly evolving through Supreme Court justices and perceptions. And I think that's something we have to be aware of with like, technology is moving so fast, right? So with GPS and tracking and monitoring devices and cameras outside of people's houses. And so I personally feel like our expectation of privacy is constantly being pulled back more and more and more because of all these these things that allow us to be tracked in those things, right? So that's constantly evolving too. So I would also say if this is something that is on your mind heavily, to always stay like aware of what's going on with current legislation, current executive orders, current federal, legislation, because it changes all the time.
Well, come back and tell us what it changes.
Dr. Beth Gilmore is an assistant professor of criminal justice at the University of Houston downtown. Dr. Gilmore, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Coming up, we're going to speak to the members of an all-female mariachi band, Las Chabelitas. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston, and we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen, so subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
The title of Gabriel Tallent's new novel, Crux, refers to the most challenging section of rock climbing. Talent, a climber himself, embraces the fear that comes with the joy in the sport.
I love that climbing can have this inch-by-inch terror.
I'm Elsa Chang. How that terror is less scary than teenage life on All Things Considered from NPR News.
It's coming up today at 3 o'clock.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear revelations from well-known actors, like Zach Galifianakis on the story behind his last name.
It's actually shortened, Terry. My real last name is Galifianakisberg. That's an exclusive for your show.
Fresh Air, bringing you some of the biggest names in American culture and some of the most difficult to pronounce. Join us.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Using online markets like Kalshi and Polymarket, you can put a bet on just about anything.
The question in many ways is not what are the regulations, but how intelligently and aggressively they are enforced.
I'm Kai Rizdal. Intelligent and aggressive enforcement, eh? I'll tell you more next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace coming up tonight at 6:30.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Historically, the mariachi has been more of a male-dominated form of music, known for the charro suits and the storytelling throughout the musical art. And over the years, the arrival of all-women mariachi bands has challenged the traditionally male-dominated genre, growing in popularity as well as achieving mainstream recognition. The reach of all-women mariachi band is felt even here in Houston with groups like Las Chabelitas, which consist of 14 women who, like other female mariachi musicians before them, are breaking down the barriers of the genre while also keeping the soul of mariachi music alive. Joining us now to tell us more about Las Chabelitas, we're joined now by two of its members, Chloe McGhee and Siumy Coreas. Is it Siumy? Yes. Chloe, Siumy, welcome to Hello Houston. Y'all look absolutely fabulous. If you're joining us, you should definitely head to YouTube to see our mariachis.
Yeah, y'all look great. Who came up with the costumes?
Well, they're not costumes, they're outfits. Yes, they're outfits. It's a way of life, Frank.
The mariachi wear. Who did you design them yourself?
Our director did, actually.
Yeah, they're great.
Yes. Talk to us about the actual mariachi suit that you are wearing.
So the suit that we're wearing, if you can see these little gold parts, they're, I guess you can call them vihuelas or guitar. They look kind of similar. And then we have our name right here, and it's embroidered in pink. And then we did have a little accent of red, which I think was very clever because, staying the same with kind of one thing, it gets kind of a little boring. But then the accent is just super good. And the skirts, we don't wear pants like the men do. We wear skirts.
Yeah. So what happened to you that you said, I want to be in a mariachi band?
Well, for me, it started in high school. I went to Klein Oak, and I was in a mariachi band there, and it just kind of expanded from there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So did you grow up listening to mariachi music? Was this something in your household that your parents exposed you to? Chloe? Siumy, whoever.
I actually did. I wasn't really familiar with mariachi music because my family is from El Salvador, so we kind of had like a little bit of crossover, but our music styles are a bit different. But once I was introduced to it in high school, I was like, oh, this is really nice, and like it was just very eye-opening.
What do you like about it? I know it's generally fast and loud.
And romantic and soft.
I like that it has its like variety. It could be fast, it could be slow. It could be a fast song, but it could be a sad song at the same time.
Yeah.
Or it could be slow, romantic, or fast and romantic. It just also depends on style and interpretation as well.
When we think about mariachi, I think so many of us, our experience with it is if you're in a Mexican restaurant or someplace and a quartet come up and play, how different is an experience of actually involving yourself in the music beyond these little snippets we get of it?
I think mariachi is very versatile, like she said. We have like little moments, like for example, this past Saturday we played at a funeral. So it's something that connects the culture and connects across cultures too.
Mm-hmm. And what does it mean to be a part of an all-female mariachi band? Why is that significant?
I feel this is really significant because, like you said, it was typically known as a very male-dominated field. It was just heavily a lot of men, like all in the groups, some women, but there are some people who sometimes prefer to have an only male group. So having this all-female group, it's really empowering, and it's really something because being able to get to know so many women and see them grow and perform with them and then just do many different things, it's really amazing to see.
Yeah. I've never heard of one. So are there lots of all-female mariachi?
I guess so, yeah. There's a lot of groups that are starting to rise now.
Nice.
And it's interesting because when you think of mariachi music, you think of very powerful instruments. You hear the horns, you hear the violin, you think of that power. And so to see females in skirts bringing that kind of power, I feel like that is powerful and empowering for also the listener. Talk to us a little bit about what inspires you, Chloe, when you're playing mariachi music.
When I'm playing, so of course I look different than, your normal mariachi player. So it inspires me to show people that whoever you are, you can like pursue whatever passion that you have. And being in a specifically female mariachi is very, I can connect with the other girls,
Yeah, for sure.
I guess one thing that comes to mind also when I think of mariachi is tradition, and that has a rich, deep tradition. I'm wondering, is that in some ways limiting to bringing your own personality and experiencing to something that is so set, or is there lots of room for it to evolve and move forward as a kind of a modern movement in mariachi?
I think there's a lot of personality that comes with mariachi. So I also play an orchestra too, so the difference between those two is how much you get to add to it and change stuff and add your own style to whatever you're playing.
Well, give us an example.
We would love to see your
you
style.
Brought your instruments. We have a special microphone up there.
Y'all can just stand up right behind your chairs if you'd like, or we can just pull those up to the side.
Let's hear it. Las Chabelitas.
Beautiful.
I love it.
And I guess with watching it, I don't think until the moment when I see you doing it how synchronized you are. And so then I think the rehearsal and the preparation for all of this, how much time do you have to put into this?
We definitely do put a good amount of time into it. Rehearsals can sometimes be from 2 hours, maybe like 3, because sometimes we'll stay around, socialize, or like be like, hey, can you go for that part one more time? Yeah. But it definitely does take some time because being synchronized is what we want, because violins especially, if one person is out of tune, it throws the whole thing off because they stick out like a very sore thumb.
So how many are there? There are 2 of you here today. How big is your group, Las Chabelitas?
About 14 of us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
nice. So I guess you're willing to like go to a wedding or a party or a birthday party in groups of what, 5, or all of you go?
As many of us that can go really go.
Yeah.
But sometimes if we can have all 14 of us will go.
Awesome.
Wow. And we have some YouTube comments. Alex Garza says, I never forget my dad telling me having the mariachi to serenade my mom before they were married. It's a common tradition. So you guys get to be a part of a lot of really special moments in people's lives, huh?
Yes, very.
So someone wants to hire you. I guess you perform. Where do they go? Do you have a website?
We do have cards. Yeah.
That won't help on the radio.
Well,
sorry for the guys
Google
who are
Las
just listening.
Chabelitas, right?
Question, do you think y'all could play us out? Could y'all stand up and play another little something for us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we've run out of time.
Yes, but we have just enough mariachi time.
But we
left.
have enough time to continue to hear Las Chabelitas. Chloe McGhee and Siumy Coreas are both members of the local all-female mariachi band Las Chabelitas. Beautiful. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. Don't forget, tomorrow, our current obsessions. This is News 88.7. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe, R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul, music that resonates with all